Is Ohio State good enough? And are these French fries good enough? I know the answer to that last question. I don't know the answer to the first. Doug Lesmerises with Bill Landis and Ari Wasserman here at our second office at McDonald's late Saturday night after Ohio State beats Michigan 42-28. But as you know by now, loses J.T. Barrett for the rest of this season. It's amazing that how much your season can change with one loss of one player. And Ohio State's now gone through this twice. To have lost Braxton Miller and have J.T. Barrett do what he has done this year, and now to lose him is almost hard to think about. You can't imagine what the Buckeyes are trying to figure out about this. Guys, the question now, as Ohio State goes forward to the Big Ten title game against Wisconsin next week, is are they still good enough to be a playoff team? To be a playoff team, they're going to have to beat Wisconsin, and then we don't know right now what else is going to have to happen. We do know the committee takes injuries into account when evaluating teams. Bill, having watched this team all year, having watched the way Michigan could move the ball at times on Saturday, knowing what we know about Cardale Jones, which is not a lot at this point, do you think they're good enough to find a way to beat Wisconsin and stay in that playoff mix?
I think it's a tough question. I think they are probably good enough to beat Wisconsin, but I don't think it's as clear-cut as I would have thought it would be if J.T. Barrett had not gotten hurt, obviously. My Cardale Jones aside, my big question with this team still is the defense. And I know we've written a lot about whether or not this team can stop the run, which obviously becomes incredibly important now that they're going to be facing Melvin Gordon. But when you look at what happened against Michigan, Michigan's offense, I think, was 117th in the country coming into the game on Saturday, and they had scoring drives of 75 yards, 80 yards, and 95 yards against a defense that now needs to be a championship defense because now they have to bail out an offense that's not going to look the same way it's looked for 12 weeks. J.T. Barrett is gone. J.T. Barrett has been great this year. Nobody really knows what Cardale Jones is at this point. Cardale Jones could be good. And I think the offense kind of sets up that, and Urban Meyer said it, that it's a product of the guys around the quarterback. So maybe Cardale Jones can be okay, but I don't think this offense is going to be nearly as good as it's been with JT at quarterback, which to me means the defense needs to step up and show that it can stop somebody because it hasn't had to do that this year, and I haven't seen anything that tells me that they can do that.
Bill covered all the bases there, so that's the end of our video.
No.
But no, I mean I say that not because you talked for a while, but because you made great points. Is this a championship defense now? This team has won by outscoring teams. You know, when they stall, we saw this offense stall at times after that quick early touchdown. We saw them stall against Michigan on Saturday, and when they stall, you get a little panicky because you think this is a very good offense. Ari, you know Cardale Jones. You've covered him since he was a high school player at Glenville. To be fair to Cardale Jones, we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that people knew what J.T. Barrett was going to be, but J.T. Barrett was a big-time recruit out of Texas that Urban Meyer and Tom Herman went and got. Cardale Jones got to Ohio State in a different way. From what you know, tell the people what you know about Cardale and what you think his chances are to, in a week, be ready for the Big Ten title game.
I asked Tom Herman about it after the game, and I just said, what do you know about Cardale? And I asked him basically the question you just asked me, and he goes, he's not ready today, but he will be ready. And he and that was it. That was the whole answer. And he kind of looked at me with a confidence. And it's funny to me because as much as we've tried to praise JT throughout the year for the growth that he's had as a quarterback, a lot of times Urban Meyer and other coaches on the staff have said this is a system offense where the players around the quarterback make the quarterback better. And the funny thing that I think about is that there have been 3 starters in the Tom Herman era at Ohio State: Kenny Guyton, Braxton Miller, now JT, and really none of them have had any catastrophic starts. And I don't know if it's because all 3 of them.
JT had a catastrophic start against Virginia Tech, I think.
Okay, if that counts, then that's fine. But the point that I'm making, though, is that it seems like they've been able to overcome that at times where it didn't seem like they were going to be able to do that. So now getting to Cardale, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he's going to come out and throw the way that JT did or lead the team the way JT did, but I do think there's an opportunity from an athleticism standpoint. There's a quote that sticks in my mind Tom Herman said in the spring that he could throw a ball through a wall. and he's a very athletic player. And Bill and I were talking, maybe even more athletic than JT. So, again, I don't think he's going to be quite as good, but I don't necessarily think that we should just expect it to be very bad either.
He's a freak. I mean, he looks like Ben Roethlisberger or Cam Newton or one of these guys. He's like 6'5" or 6'6". He's as big as a linebacker. He's 250. The thing that I think might be different about Cardale Jones and why this situation is a little different to me than what they've dealt with before is, first of all, Kenny Guyton played terrible teams. No offense to Kenny Guyton. He was not going to face Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game when he won those 2 games last year while Braxton Miller was out. And Darryl Baldwin made a good point on Saturday, the right tackle. It took a little while for J.T. Barrett to sort of get rolling. That's part of why Ohio State lost the Virginia Tech game. There is not time to take a while to get rolling. Yeah. You must roll now. And Cardale Jones, he is a big arm guy. He is a big, crazy athlete. I mean, he can do some amazing things. He's not a pinpoint, from what I've seen, from what I understand, he's not a pinpoint boom, 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 in rhythm, distribute the ball, boom, boom, which Kenny Guyton was more of that. J.T. Barrett has proven to be that all season. Braxton Miller maybe wasn't as much of that, but I think he had some of that in him, and we know what Braxton Miller is. Braxton Miller's a whirling dervish. He's a dynamo. I don't know that Cardale's that either. I think this is, Urban Meyer said after the game on Saturday that the coaches are going to earn their stripes. And as much as they are saying, they said afterward their skill set is similar for JT and Cardale Jones, and I think that's true. I don't think you put in Cardale Jones into this offense, into this game plan and say, okay, here you go. I think you are absolutely going to see Jalen Marshall in the Wildcat, a former high school quarterback, probably throwing the ball some. I think you are going to see some different looks. You are going to see different things in maybe what kind of run plays you do. I don't know what Cardale Jones is like running the option. We don't really know how good he is running the zone read. He certainly has that big arm. I think the best way for Ohio State to lose is to come out and try and throw the ball down the field 20 times on 50-yard passes. That's too much high risk for an offense that does have other playmakers. But let's remember this, and I wrote this in my story. They're down Braxton Miller. They're down J.T. Barrett. They're down Noah Spence. They're down Dontre Wilson. That is a lot of talent out the window, and they are facing a 2,000-yard running back in Melvin Gordon with a run defense that you have questions about.
In the spring, were those their 5 best players? 4 best players?
I mean, JT, you didn't know what JT was going to be, but if you would have said, Braxton, Noah, Dontre, and then JT basically became Braxton, I mean, that's an unbelievable talent drain. And it's like Jalen Marshall has become Dontre Wilson, but I mean, I think it's important for people to understand. At the beginning of the season when Braxton Miller went down, I was very strong in saying you can't just throw the next guy in and expect everything's going to be fine. That's ridiculous. And for 3 months, J.T. Barrett made me look like an idiot. I'm going to say it again now. Yeah. You can't just throw anybody in there and think you're going to be fine. Maybe Cardale Jones will make me look like an idiot again. This is a lot to ask in a very short period of time.
The question now, though, is I think the 3 of us agree that Ohio State has the talent to beat Wisconsin.
I agree with that.
Landis?
Yeah, I agree.
The question, I guess, now that we'll discuss is Ohio State, with a win, maybe an ugly one, because that might be what it takes to beat Wisconsin given the circumstances, plus a month for Cardale to get ready for a playoff game, or maybe not a month, but about a month. Is Ohio State a playoff team, and can they make it to that point?
We know the committee considers injuries. It's going to be hard because, as this point was made elsewhere, actually by Andy Staples of SI.com, Ohio State, in some ways, some people want Ohio State to have the quarterback injury taken into consideration with their Virginia Tech loss. Hey, it was J.T. Barrett's second start. He took over as a starting quarterback 2 weeks before the season. If you're going to take that into consideration, now the committee is going to take into consideration, hey, now they don't have J.T. Barrett. Now they have a third-string quarterback. Do we want to put them in? Or if you're going to say, forget about it, it doesn't matter, quarterback, don't hold Cardale against us, don't hold J.T. Barrett's injury against us, then you can't get an excuse for the loss. Then you are still having to deal with that Virginia Tech loss. So a lot of things can happen still. My guess is that Ohio State's going to lose the tiebreaker. on a lot of stuff now. I don't think this means that all of a sudden they're behind a bunch of 2-loss teams. I think you lose the benefit of the doubt. Any benefit of the doubt they had been gaining and putting the Virginia Tech loss behind them, I think you lose some of that benefit of the doubt unless you come out and blow Wisconsin off the field.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think they can blow Wisconsin. Wisconsin, everyone talks about Melvin Gordon. Wisconsin's got a really good defense, too. Wisconsin's number 2 in the country in total defense. I know they're not the flashiest team, but, I mean, they've won, I think it's 7 games in a row or something like that, 7 games in a row. So they've been one of the better teams in the country over the last month and a half, 2 months. I don't think anyone can expect Ohio State to go into this game expecting Ohio State somehow to pull out a miracle and this offense is going to click on all cylinders and not skip a beat with Cardale Jones at quarterback. I think this change, even if it's not as drastic as we think it might be, because like you said, they think JT and Cardale have the same skill set, it just puts so much more pressure on everybody else. Ezekiel Elliott is going to have to carry the ball more than he has. The offensive line is going to have to protect better than it has all year. And the receivers can't drop passes because it is a very fine line now with Cardale Jones, who's learning on the fly in this offense, also while playing the number 2 defense in the country in the biggest game of the year.
We'll have coverage all week leading up to the Big Ten championship game. We'll be over there the day before to deal with Ohio State and Wisconsin in Indianapolis. And I think the point we want to leave people with is that this is difficult. For Ohio State to try to be doing this, to win a Big Ten title for a group of seniors that's never won a Big Ten title, to be trying to get into the inaugural playoff with their third-string quarterback. You know, we saw against Indiana. Indiana's had 2 quarterback injuries this year. Xander Diamont, when they played Ohio State, that's what a third-string quarterback can look like. The idea that Ohio State had a second-string quarterback who broke records is unbelievable. This is that much more difficult. So stick with us. Thanks for following along here, for reading along at cleveland.com. Just